Our first honoree is Pete King. Now, Pete is remarkably humble for those of us who know him, but the fact is he had a meteoric rise in journalism after his time in what was then known as the Mustang Daily newsroom. Now, I remember introducing Pete as a speaker at the first Jim Hayes Symposium back in 2015. I talked at the time about how I and my fellow students really looked upon Pete's career with some awe, because he went from the Associated Press to the San Francisco Examiner and then on to a long career with the Los Angeles Times. Pete, in other words, was a guy that we all looked up to and we all aspired to be like. So here's a look at Pete's career.
My name's Peter King. I attended Cal Poly from the fall of '73 to the fall of '77. My passion for journalism came on gradually but steadily. And when I hit Cal Poly, it was a bit of a Garden of Eden effect. This great professor, Jim Hayes, these students that seemed so accomplished and together, and people that I would want to emulate. I was working for Mustang Daily. It didn't teach me what I needed to know. What it taught me was how to learn what I needed to know. And when they talk about learn by doing, and God, do they talk about learn by doing? It's not something that you box up at for 4 years. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of living. To me, everything was a learning experience. I was honored to be able to be city editor of the LA Times and hope I made some changes there. The challenge for the generation that's coming out of Cal Poly and other journalism schools now is going to be how you distinguish yourself and how you make journalism something apart from mere voyeurism or opportunism. So I always had this fantasy that if I talked to enough classes and I challenged enough courses, I would be able to win a degree from Cal Poly and make my mom happy if nobody else. Because it kind of always felt awkward. Can I put a license plate frame on my vehicle that says Cal Poly alumni? Can I give the secret handshake? Any of that stuff? I don't consider myself a dropout. I consider myself a 40-year student. I'm still an active student at Cal Poly, in my view, which is one of the reasons I hang around a lot. To me, the most amazing thing about being inducted into the Hall of Fame is not my place, but the ones who are going to be standing beside me. It's a neat club to be a member of.
Pete, come on up. And while he's coming up, I want to also mention that Melissa Chichorka, who is also a member of the Hall of Fame, is with us tonight.
Wow. Just in case. I apologize for my voice. I get hay fever every time I come back to this neck of the woods. Somebody in the chemistry shop should invent a product. Maybe they could call it slow naze. I don't know. But bear with me. I want to thank you, Kevin, for the introduction. As always, this is the voice of Cal Poly journalism, if you haven't figured that out by now. I want to thank Bunker King, who's sitting at my table, no relation, who put together that video, and he did a really good job. And he took like 45 minutes of mumbling gibberish, and he turned it into 2 minutes of mumbling gibberish. So that was quite an accomplishment. I want to thank the provost for being here, and that's so important. And the dean is around somewhere, if she's not still here. Right here. That's equally important. Thank you so much. I'd heard a rumor that the president might drop by, but I think that's going to depend on how the football fellows are doing against Montana. So if he shows up, that's mixed news, I would think. I also want to thank my family who's here. My wife, Maura, who was the Maura Dolan, who LA Times readers would know for 40 years of bylines. She's the star journalist of the family. And my daughter, Mary Ellen, she's the pride of the UPenn Fighting Quakers. her husband Charles, the pride of Mary Ellen, and 2 grandsons. There's Noseem Liam, who's sitting on Papa's lap, on his dad's lap, and then there's Halver Guo, the oldest of the 3 grandkids. You know, the people from time to time would ask me, I always used my middle initial in my byline, and people would, for a lot of reasons, and people would say why and what it was, and now you have the answer, what that H stands for. Halver. Welcome, Halver. Do you have anything you want to say? Now's your chance. This is a great honor. And I thank all the people responsible for it. It's certainly one notch above a Cal Poly alumni license plate frame. But there's a story to that. As the video referenced, I always was in this self-created twilight zone of, is there a secret handshake that they give you at graduation that I missed out on? And can I call myself an alumni? Dictionary definition, yes. Am I faking it? Am I being a fraud if I put a license plate frame on my truck? And so on. And I had the honor of being the commencement speaker at a graduation in the mid-1990s, not that late. And it was winter, so it was in the gym, and they had to do it in morning and evening session, something you never want to agree to. But at any rate, after the morning session, I had said all this stuff, and I was really hopeful because I had tried in every way possible to get a degree through the back door. I mean, my transcripts were read by more provosts and deans and whatnot than you can imagine. Everybody read them, trying to find a way. Maybe not the blind boys of Alabama who were here last night, but everybody else had read my Pete King's transcript. We never could figure out a way, and other than going back to school. But I thought, man, commencement address, excuse me. Here comes the honorary degree. So at the lunchtime, sure enough, President Baker at the time got up and he came over, and I was with my family. My mom was there, who really was bugged that I left in my senior year to go to work at the Fresno Bee. I called it earn by doing. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Came up and he had a brown envelope, 8 by 11, right size. Said, man, we really liked your speech. And we just have a token of our appreciation. And we want to, you can have it right here, open it in front of your family. So I opened it up, and you can guess, it was a license plate frame. So there you go. There's another reason, and again, Bunker took all my only good lines, but it's mentioned in the video of the honor, and that is the people I'm going in with, also the people who were there before. My son, who can't be here tonight, when he got the news, he said, "Great, Dad, you made it on the 4th ballot." That's why you have sons, to keep you humble. But we've got Claudia Bach and Ellen Penske. And when I started at Poly in the fall of '73, they were already there, and you always look up to the people that were there before. I think that's referencing. Claudia was, as she is now, and our paths intersected at the Sacramento Bee and on the board and other places. She was always, and she was that first time I saw her in the old rim of the Mustang Daily Newsroom. Just a picture of calmness and coolness and composure, and I would say class. And she's been consistent. And so it's an honor to be in with Claudia. And Ellen Penske, when I started, she was editing a magazine, I believe, called Outlook. And you have to understand, in the '70s, magazines were a big deal all across America. It was the high water mark for magazines, the new journalism of Tom Wolfe and Hunter Thompson and all those, Joan Didion, all those people was being published first in magazines, and she was putting out a very credible literary magazine. And so, wow, there's awe. And I've got to know her on the board. And between Claudia and Ellen, you're not going to find any more dedicated people to the cause we share, which is Cal Poly journalism. And then we've got a new wrinkle this year, a rising star, which speaking before, Sean McMinn and I both agree that can sort of be a jinxie kind of title, but he's doing wonderful stuff at Politico in Washington, and it is important that it's not a bunch of horse-speaking old people that are winning these awards and standing up in front of you and passing the torch forward. This is a relay race that we're in, and it's going to go on for a long time, and we need the new runners. And so it's an honor to be on the same lineup as Sean. And finally, who did I forget? I forgot Tracy Campbell. And I didn't forget her for a reason. I saved her for last because, in my view of history, if it wasn't for Tracy, we wouldn't be here tonight. There wouldn't be a Cal Poly journalism department. Not a lot of people know that, but I think it was about 15 years ago, people who work in close proximity to where the provost works now, and it was tough times. I was at UC at the time, and everybody was cutting what they had to because Sacramento had it in their head that the public university system that made systems that made the state great could be done without or put on short rations. And so people were having to make hard choices, and a choice was made to kill the Cal Poly journalism department. And with allies, George Ramos being front and center among them in a fiery commencement address he gave, but with phone calls and plotting and endless emails and campaigning and marching up the hill to that 6-story building, Tracy Campbell led a campaign, as she does in her public relations work, and she changed that decision. And that's why we're here. You know, early on, the question would come up when I was at the B or at the AP or at the LA Times, anywhere. They'd say, you talk about where you went to school. Does Cal Poly even have a journalism department? Did they teach journalism at Cal Poly? And you'd say, yeah. And at the time, I say it's a small department. We had Zook and we had The Rock, John Healy, and a couple others. But we have this one really superstar professor named Jim Hayes. Maybe you've heard of him. And it sort of made it all work, at least for me. And I know for a lot of the brothers and sisters out there. So that was the answer then. I still get the question. I was coming here a year ago for an advisory board meeting, and one of the guys I played basketball with, a bunch of 60 and 70-year-old guys, we've mastered the shuffle step. But as I explained where I was going, and he said, well, do they teach journalism at Cal Poly? Do they have a journalism department? And the answer was different. I said, yeah, they've got one. And it's pretty darn good. And across a lot of platforms, they have figured out what a lot of the industry hasn't figured out, and that sweet spot of playing with the new toys and pushing the envelope on the new gadgets and the new technologies and the audience-seeking devices and all that stuff, but maintain the core principles of truth, accuracy, fairness, and finding and telling compelling stories, which is the heart of all that we do. So Mary Glick, Brady, and all the faculty, I'd say there's a half dozen Jim Hayeses here now if I was going to be asked. So they've grown it. And that's why programs like the Mustang Media Fest, even this little event at the end, they're all important. I mean, the provost mentioned that he had been at the breakfast, and he was, and it's not enough to do what you're supposed to do in this world, public education and probably the whole world. you got to do a little more. You see, we had to say it's not enough to educate 140,000 people, lead the world in grants, be the most inclusive public university in the world and the best university in the world. That was not enough. We were still getting our rear ends kicked in Sacramento and our budget slashed and our gates stormed. So we have to find ways to do extra things that shine the spotlight on your day job, basically, and what you really do. And that's why this Mustang Media Fest, in my view, was so important. And I'd like to see it really, I know they like to think of a 2-year high. I'd like it to grow in something, to be something that brings the world of journalism to Cal Poly, if only for a few days. I think it's doable. But it's something that we have to do. We have to convene the important conversations. We have to take on initiatives like our mentoring program that go beyond the day job. It's a perpetual campaign. Tracy Campbell could tell you about how to do it, so could Ellen. And here's where I'd like to leave you, because there's a bunch of folks following. I got to get out of the way. For all of you, for everybody, for the provost, for the dean, and all of them. I think what we need to do, and this, maybe a couple have heard it before, but I look forward to the day when Cal Poly is as well known for journalism as it is for architecture, agriculture, and engineering. That would be a good day. And the work that Jim and Zook and those people laid down before, and Robert Kennedy, the other Robert Kennedy, even before them, the work that Mary picked up, the work that Brady carries on, they're getting us there. They're getting it up to the mountain, but we need to get the world to know to know that Cal Poly does journalism as well as it does these other things, and I think we can get there. And sort of in that question, do they teach journalism at Cal Poly? Make that question go away, and it's a good day. So that's it. And just to close, I'll employ one of the oldest, hoariest tricks of column writing. I'd like to end exactly where I began, which is thank you.